In the tranquil coastal hamlet of Haven's Edge, the sudden appearance of a massive iceberg just off the shore captivated the entire populace. Accustomed to occasional ice drifts from the north, the townsfolk gathered to marvel at this colossal visitor. While most were awestruck by its sheer size, one individual noticed something remarkably unusual about this remarkable natural spectacle. Milan had been carefully examining the iceberg through his high-quality binoculars for some time. As his gaze traversed the icy surface, he was abruptly halted by a sight that defied explanation. There was unmistakable movement atop the ice. However, before he could discern more, the movement vanished to the other side of the iceberg, eluding his view. The entity, or whatever it was, must have been there for days, perhaps even weeks, as ice travels at a sluggish pace in the ocean's languid drift. How had it survived for so long, and why was it situated at the iceberg's summit? Milan was unsure of what to do next. Should he tell somebody? Milan doubted that they would even believe it. Milan decided not to tell anybody what he had seen and wanted to go to the iceberg alone. He knew that he could lend the small speedboat of his brother-in-law, as he took that often. Milan hurried home to get ready for his journey to the top of the iceberg. When he emerged from the alleys, he saw that the harbor was quiet in the early morning. Usually it was bustling with activity, but now it was strangely calm. He walked towards his boat feeling a mix of fear and excitement. This journey could change everything. Starting the engine quietly, Milan realized that going to the iceberg might uncover secrets that could change his town forever. He guided the boat out of the harbor, staying close to the shore to avoid being seen. Alone on the vast sea, Milan's mind drifted. His usual life in Haven's Edge felt like a distant memory. As Milan approached the iceberg, its huge size was overwhelming. He anchored the boat near its towering face and gathered his climbing gear, each piece essential for the climb. After securing his gear, he took a deep breath and began to climb. The ice was hard, slippery, and freezing. Every step was a challenge against the unpredictable surface. As Milan neared the top, his heart raced. What awaited him? A barren peak or something else? At the summit, he was greeted by a breathtaking view. Surveying the area, Milan noticed faint footprints in the snow. Further exploration revealed clear signs of recent human presence, deepening the mystery. Why would someone be here? Intrigued, Milan pressed on. He scoured the summit, looking for any additional clues that might offer insight into the enigmatic presence. Hidden behind a large ice formation, he found a series of deep grooves in the ice. Not natural formations, but seemingly man-made. Nearby, a small, partially buried metal box caught his attention. Inside, he found a collection of old, faded photographs depicting the iceberg in various stages of its journey. Nearby, a collection of empty food cans and water bottles was neatly piled. This was not the aftermath of a brief visit. Someone had spent a significant amount of time here. Milan's heart raced with curiosity. Who could have survived in such isolation, and what had driven them to this frozen solitude? Venturing further, Milan discovered a makeshift shelter tucked into a crevice. Constructed from a tarp and supported by a framework of ice axes, the shelter was rudimentary, but ingenious. The most revealing discovery came when Milan found scientific equipment near the shelter. Weathered notebooks filled with detailed observations and data, alongside a broken Geiger counter and a battered telescope, hinted at a scientific purpose behind the occupant's presence. This revelation shifted Milan's perspective. The iceberg, once a symbol of nature's untamed beauty, now also represented a chapter of human endeavor, possibly a research mission gone awry. Suddenly, the calm skies turned as a fierce blizzard engulfed the summit. Milan, caught off guard, scrambled to build a shelter. As the night progressed, Milan's resourcefulness was put to the test. He rationed the limited food and water he had, mindful of the uncertain days ahead. The situation was dire, but Milan refused to succumb to despair. As dawn broke, the storm gradually subsided, giving way to a serene silence. Milan cautiously emerged from his shelter, greeted by a world transformed by snow and ice. With the easing weather, Milan prepared to continue his exploration. As the storm cleared, Milan resumed his exploration, uncovering more signs of the mysterious inhabitant. Scattered around the shelter were various tools, each with a story to tell. Venturing beyond the shelter, Milan noticed a trail of footprints in the fresh snow. With each step, he followed the tracks, his curiosity growing. The footprints led him across the summit, weaving through the ice formations. They were a silent guide, leading him deeper into the heart of the iceberg. There, he discovered what appeared to be a makeshift research station beneath a camouflaged tarp. He found scientific instruments, weathered by time but still intact, a portable weather station, a collection of geological samples, and an old rusted camera hinted at a serious scientific endeavor. Among the items at the research station, Milan found a series of documents and journals. The pages revealed the work of a scientist, Dr. Robinson, who had been studying the iceberg's trajectory and composition. His notes were meticulous, filled with observations, hypotheses, and personal reflections. As Milan pieced together the clues, he began to understand the scope of Dr. Robinson's work. The iceberg had been more than a floating mass of ice. It was a moving laboratory, a vessel for scientific discovery. Dr. Robinson's research offered insight into climate change and glacial movements. Milan felt a profound respect for the scientist's dedication. In the dense fog, a figure emerged, startling Milan. It was Dr. Harold Robinson, the scientist whose legacy he had just begun to unravel. Dr. Robinson looked weary, his face weathered by the harsh conditions, but his eyes sparkled with an undiminished spirit. Milan, filled with curiosity, and Dr. Robinson surprised by the unexpected company, cautiously began to exchange words, bridging the gap between them. Milan shared his story of how curiosity led him to the iceberg and his discoveries along the way. This exchange softened the edges of Dr. Robinson. As the fog lifted, Dr. Robinson began to share his remarkable story. The spoke of his research, how a sudden storm had left him stranded, and his subsequent fight for survival. His tale was one of resilience, innovation, and an unyielding passion for scientific inquiry. Milan, captivated by the scientist's endurance, listened intently. Dr. Robinson's experiences, fraught with challenges and moments of despair, were a testament to the human spirit's tenacity. Sitting amidst the vast expanse of ice, Milan and Dr. Robinson realized they were in a shared predicament. Their conversation turned to planning. As their supplies dwindled to a critical low, Milan and Dr. Robinson knew they needed to act together. They constructed a makeshift beacon, using parts from Dr. Robinson's equipment and Milan's climbing gear. They positioned it at the highest point they could safely reach, hoping its signal would penetrate the dense fog and endless expanse of sea and ice. It was a desperate measure, but it ignited a flicker of hope in the bleak Arctic wilderness. As they waited for rescue, a severe storm hit, testing their already perilous situation. The wind howled with ferocious intensity, threatening to tear apart their shelter and extinguish their beacon. Milan and Dr. Robinson huddled close, fighting to keep the beacon working. Their hands were freezing, and their faces stung from the icy wind. In the midst of the blizzard, the beacon was their only hope, a bright sign that they were still alive. It continued to send out its signal, cutting through the storm's noise. Meanwhile, a search and rescue helicopter, alerted by the police in Haven's Edge, spotted the beacon's signal. Despite the storm, the helicopter made its way toward them. It was a sign of safety and the end of their struggle on the iceberg. On the helicopter, Milan and Dr. Robinson watched as the iceberg faded into the distance. They thought about their incredible journey, being alone, surviving, and forming an unexpected friendship. This experience had changed them, creating a bond that only people who have faced tough times together can understand. As they flew to safety, they knew this was more than just a rescue. It was the beginning of a new part of their lives, marked by strength, friendship, and a deep respect for nature's wild beauty.